The little boy ran through the twisted, bombed-out streets, dodging debris and craters. He was dirty, dressed in filthy rags, with tears creeping down his cheeks. Hot on his tail were SCP Foundation field agents. Why? Because he just witnessed the same SCP Foundation agents chasing him murder his entire family right in front of him. And now, they were looking to finish the job.
If that kid escapes, none of you make it home!
The commander of the group barked as the boy disappeared into some tall grass. Ever since the world as they knew it disappeared, changed with the horrible arrival of the Foundation and all the monsters they released upon the Earth, everything had fallen into ruins. The boy and his family had been lucky to survive this long, but all luck runs out eventually. Will the boy's luck last long enough for him to escape the tall grass while a horde of trained killers with advanced weapons and tactics followed him? Well, what do you think his odds are, dear viewer? Bullets ripped through the grass as the agents unloaded, hoping they might hit the kid by accident. By some miracle, every bullet missed. However, every time the shots rang out, terrible memories bounced around the boy's head. How the Foundation agents found the dilapidated building where he and his family had been hiding. How they entered, guns drawn, and demanded that they all line up and get on their knees if they wanted to live. Of course, it was a lie. With one shot each, the boy's family's killers moved down the line, executing them all. The boy's skinny, malnourished wrists managed to slide out of the zip ties before the wave of violence washing over his family also claimed him. After all the terrible things that they'd seen, after everything they had heard over the last few months, after all the horrors, it seemed unimaginable that the agents of their death would be something as mundane as mere human beings with conventional weapons. The things that had happened to others. Well, the little boy could scarcely have imagined it in his deepest, darkest nightmares. For so many computers around the world, a terrible face flashed on people's screens. A gaunt, white, screaming face bereft of hair with blank eyes. To the people old enough to remember, it might have seemed like one of the pop-up screamers of the 2000s. A little unsettling, sure, but harmless. This wasn't, though. Everyone who saw it, whether it took minutes or hours, heard a terrible screaming and wailing coming towards them. Then a monstrous creature, a stretched parody of a man, naked and emaciated, smashed through the wall, claws and teeth outstretched in unknowable fury. When it was done killing them, there wasn't even anything left to bury. But the world of burials, of funerals, of the respected dead was about to come to an end anyway. Mushroom clouds rose across the oceans. Nobody was sure who exactly fired the nukes, but in addition to distributing deadly radioactive fallout through the skies, it woke something great and terrible beneath the ocean. A monster thousands of miles long, an underwater behemoth, a biblical leviathan, and its shuddering rocked the world in the most terrible ways imaginable. Earthquakes shattered and swallowed whole cities. Coastal settlements were quickly consumed by raging tsunamis, walls of water that let none escape alive. As the chaos started to unfold, world leaders, just as confused as anybody else about what was happening here, took to the airwaves to try to comfort their panicked citizens. Leaders all across the globe made broadcasts, saying that their armies, intelligence agencies, and emergency services were all trying to get the matter under control. But that's when another terrifying thing began to happen. A man dressed in the black garb of an old-fashioned English butler started appearing in the backgrounds of the broadcasts, somehow having completely slipped past security. And in doing so, he effortlessly began assassinating heads of state. By gun, by knife, by garrote wire. Bye-bye. The very structure of the world's nations was being rewritten by this terrifying assassin, who'd often be gunned down by security forces as soon as he'd completed his task. And the most strange and frightening part was that the man in each broadcast, the man dressed as a butler, seemed to be the exact same man. But the civilian population could hardly even stop to worry about their fallen leaders. Major cities from New York to Delhi were suddenly hit by multiple simultaneous outbreaks of the most infectious and terrifying pathogen ever known, SCP-610, also known as the flesh that hates. Anyone infected started first by breaking out into a terrible full-body rash, soon developing into huge boils and lesions and overgrowing diseased skin. After that, they went from pitiful, sick, disfigured humans to terrible monsters. Extra limbs, extra eyes, extra mouths, grasping tentacles covered in fingers and teeth. Cronenbergian horrors beyond full comprehension or description, with only one motivation in mind: to hunt down and infect others with their glorious and terrible disease. As crowds screamed and ran, the infected leapt out to capture and convert them. The only thing that stopped them from killing even more people was the intrusion of unknown tactical soldiers, whose shoulders had patches reading GOC. They flew in, backed up by cyborgs who possessed advanced weaponry that seemed to drive back those who'd become among the swelling numbers of the flesh that hates. Not everyone was lucky enough to have a savior. In the little boy's town, a once beautiful and idyllic place where he and his family had settled not long ago, a monster soon came rampaging. It was a ginormous reptile, huge and terrifying, with claws and teeth that could effortlessly rip through buildings. But it was no mere beast. The creature was fast, adaptive, and extremely intelligent. It ripped through the larger buildings quickly, hunting down and devouring the screaming humans within, then began stalking the ruined suburbs.
Where are you hiding?
The monster rasped in a deep, guttural growl.
I smell you amongst the rock and rubble of your lives. I smell your fear. It smells disgusting.
The boy and his family hid away as best they could, but the terrible monster's words were no idle threat. Soon the wood and brickwork that guarded them was torn away. They were staring into the dripping maw of the beast, death and despair feeling more familiar than they had ever felt before.
Scream as you die,
the monster said.
At least then you can serve a purpose as dinner-time entertainment.
They all did as they were told and screamed. The monster, satisfied, reared back and prepared to lunge at them, delivering what would surely be a death blow. Then, at the last possible second, a flash of orange struck the creature in the face. It stumbled backwards, stunned, as the orange seemed to crawl all over its body, chirping and cooing. The little boy could just about see. It looked like a blob of orange slime, sticking to the monster's scales, slithering all over it. He could feel some kind of energy radiating off of the slime even at this distance. It felt like warmth, light, happiness, hope, and the scaly monster absolutely despised it.
No! Get off me, you worthless little wretch!
It yelled, though its voice had already started breaking into involuntary laughter.
No! Stop it! You're no brother of mine! Abomination! Disgusting!
It was unable to resist the peals of laughter, soon falling on its side to cackle at intense volumes. The little boy and his family somehow knew what was happening here. The little orange creature was helping them, buying them time. Now was their chance to run. And run they did, away from their home, their life, as the world they knew crumbled and cracked beneath them. It sent them hurtling through the dark into a terrible new definition of normal, one filled with chaos, pain, fear, and horror. In the few places that the news still ran, it ran as a parade of impossible nightmares. Paris, France had been invaded by gangs of murderous teddy bears. Their leader was a giant red bear stomping through the city. On closer inspection, its massive form was comprised of thousands of dead Parisians, their corpses fused together by the countless smaller bears swarming around it, spreading violence and chaos wherever they went. Refugee camps were set up for the ones fleeing towns and cities where horror reigned. These were set up by the same groups that had helped fight off the flesh that hates in all the major cities. But the Foundation still had other weapons up their sleeves. A mobile task force transported a particularly dangerous anomaly, SCP-1440, an old Middle Eastern man whose mere presence causes death and destruction to human life from camp to camp. While he wept for the damage he caused, thousands died. It was much more efficient than one of the Foundation's more common methods, simply gunning down running people as they saw them with brutal efficiency, just like the fate that would later befall the poor little boy's family in the Comprise safe house. But there were far greater atrocities to unleash before that small tragedy could even unfold. From every available location, the Foundation's nightmare, SCP-3199, was being airdropped in the form of grotesque eggs. Upon landing, they would hatch, birthing swarms of self-replicating man-chicken abominations that attacked any actual human on sight, an encounter that 9 times out of 10 ended in a horrific death. And after that, they would just keep breeding and spreading. Temporal anomalies were also used to change the date, technically making every day Christmas Day. Normally, Christmas every day might seem as a nice thing. English glam rock band Wizard even made a song about the possibilities in 1985. But in this case, it had the horrifying side effects of allowing SCP-4666, the Yule Man, to operate all year round. Trust us when we say that if given the choice, you would choose to be killed by literally any other anomaly than have a run-in with the Yule Man. Hundreds, if not thousands, of families were about to suffer slow, drawn-out deaths at the hand of this ancient, gnarled sadist. Unlike most of the other anomalies listed here, the Yule Man does not just kill, he savors it. He stalks, tortures, and eventually slaughters his victims, or worse, drags them back to his twisted workshop. There they help craft his nightmarish toys until their strength fails, and then they become the toys. The little boy had no way of knowing this, but the Foundation's humanoid anomalies who weren't sociopathic killers were actually the first victims of this new rampage, along with any other anomalies who might be viewed as holding inconvenient sympathies towards the human race. In all of this, only one-of-the-kind anomalies had been able to escape. When a Foundation executioner entered the cell of SCP-999, the Tickle Monster, he raised his weapon and prepared to fire, but he couldn't do it. He felt the wave of compassion from the adorable orange blob wash over him. How could he possibly try to kill something that was a true force for good like that? No, he couldn't do it. He needed to keep the spark of hope alive in this dark new world, even if it was only because it's what it wanted him to do. He opened the cell and told SCP-999 to get out of there as fast as he could. There would be so many people out there who needed his help. He might even be the one who could save this broken, terrible world from the horrors that the SCP Foundation had unleashed upon it. SCP-999 slithered like the wind through the containment site towards the door. The agent who had a change of heart and freed him wasn't so lucky. A Foundation sniper on an upper floor noticed his act of kindness, and instead saw it as an act of weakness. He lined up the man's head between his crosshairs and fired, dropping him on the spot. But his sacrifice would not have been in vain. He freed humanity's last hope from what otherwise might have been certain doom. SCP-999, said by certain prophecies to be the ultimate source for good in the universe. But could that good truly flourish when the source of the greatest evil was the SCP Foundation itself? That brings us back to where we started. An orphan boy, his family destroyed, running through the tall grass as armored men with assault rifles followed him. As he ran, he felt all his pain welling up, all his grief, all the aches and exhaustions in his body from surviving, not living. He's going through what no child should ever go through, but millions still do in the endless churn of the new world, just like the old. But as the tall grass gave way, the boy saw something awful. A half-decimated brick wall, but still too tall to climb. He was boxed in, with his soon-to-be killers on his heels already. The little boy backed into the wall and turned to see the Foundation death squad emerging from the tall grass, not a hint of hesitation in their stance.
"It's for your own good, kid," the point man said. "For everyone's good in the end."
They squeezed the triggers on their assault rifles and let loose. But in a flash of orange, too fast for anyone in attendance to comprehend, the little boy was pulled out of the firing line. The same blob that had saved him once before had done it again, snatching him up with its pseudopods and rocketing away into the distance. The Foundation goons were left standing there, utterly baffled. Moments later, the little boy opened his eyes in a nearby clearing, and with the warm, encouraging energy exuding from SCP-999 enveloping him, he felt something that neither he nor the world had felt for a long, long time. Truly safe. And if 999 could give that back to a frightened little boy who just lost everything, maybe he could give it back to the rest of the world too. Now go check out SCP-5000 Inside SCP-610 Epic Tale, and how SCP-682 tried to stop SCP-5000 for more.